and the long and the short of it is I bought my first home when I was 23 years old.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we will be discussing the struggles and lessons learned along the journey of a seven-figure entrepreneur. It's my great pleasure to welcome our guest today, Rachel Foy with Hillman Homes. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. We're super excited to get to know you and your business a little bit more today. So without further ado, Rachel, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, please share with us your story. Where did you start from? Where have you been able to get to? And maybe share a few key lessons learned along the way.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I've been in real estate for this my 22nd year. So in order to get here, I gotta, we gotta go back in time, right?
Sounds good.
I was raised by entrepreneurs. My dad was the founder of Pearl Vision Center, so he's the reason you get your glasses in an hour. My
Nice.
mom was an art collector, so it was always talking about business, and my dad was a big thinker and strategy kind of guy. In terms of working, I actually started in the corporate world. I've always been in sort of customer service types of jobs. When I moved to Boston after college, I worked at Fidelity Investments, so another kind of investment, right? We like money, and I spent a lot of time on Morningstar and running a team of investment advisor, a marketing team for the investment advisor team,
Okay.
and the whole time I just wanted to get out of that cubicle. And you get in there at 7 something in the morning if you're not the earliest, and you stay the latest, and get your 3% raise every year, and it just wasn't motivating for me. So I actually went back to school. I got my MBA at Babson College, focused on entrepreneurship.
Awesome.
While I was there was one class that you could take to get credit for. You would study a sort of a consulting class, and everyone was picking the high tech consulting firms. And I went down the third page, and there was Belgium's best chocolates, and that was for me, right? It was
Love it.
chocolates. So of course, it made that shift from investing in money to helping this fabulous company that had homemade chocolates, and that kind of taught me a little bit about taking a company that's small and growing it. At the time, he was in his basement, literally filling these chocolates with fax. Okay, sorry, everyone. This is how old I am. We were faxing orders back then. I also had a beeper. Okay, so there you
That's
go.
awesome.
And orders would come through, and then we'd manually send these to the warehouse for shipment. So making it more of a fluid transaction, and building a website and how to grow your business. And this was back before the day we didn't have Facebook and all of these Google clicks and all of that back in the day. So I really learned a lot about how to grow your business organically and fundamentally, right from
Right.
the beginning. But again, I wanted to eat more of the product than sell, so that probably wasn't a good long-term hold for me. I even tried. I was so excited. I had a corporate gift basket business, so I could use their chocolates, and then things would expire, and I'm like, well, I might as well eat this, right? So
Love that.
it wasn't very profitable for me. But I do like investing, and I love people. And the long and the short of it is I bought my first home when I was 23 years old. Not because I had to, a little bit because in Boston, not I would say not because I wanted to, but I had to. So in Boston, the rents still are astronomical, and they were back at the time. And I had a landlord at the time that said, "Listen, I want your condo, I want the apartment back. Please move, now." And it was just too scary to figure out what to do.
Right.
And I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't understand what real estate was all about, and it was a really tough experience. And it took me a long time to trust what a realtor was. I had a really tough experience. Eventually, after looking at, are you ready, 36 properties,
Wow.
3 failed transactions that I had to back out of because, one, I was just a little stupid about the process, or a little bit fantasy. I wanted it to be more dreamy than what it was. And eventually had my own property, but I loved having my own home. And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to do this. This has to be a better experience, considering it's such an expensive asset that you own.
Right.
And so I was interested in that. And I didn't want to go back to corporate world. And I really, got to a point in my life. I was at this crossroads of, okay, I'm not going to eat my product anymore, and I'm not going back to corporate world, But I really like real estate, and I had this crossroads and an opportunity in my life to change gears, and I kind of just jumped in, and that was 22 years ago. Got my license, and I've navigated through that, working for different firms, but developing again an entrepreneurial spirit in a industry where there's just a million people, and here we are today.
Awesome. So transitioning out of that, going into real estate, at what point did you say, you know what, I'm going to go do my own thing?
Yeah, so in real estate, you have two kinds of licenses, right? So when you want to become a realtor or an agent, you start as an agent, you get a salesperson's license. And then the next step is to get your broker's license. And that's when you can go and do your own thing. So I started in 2002, and we know what the economy looked like in 2002. Pretty good. I got my broker's license in 2004. We know what was starting to happen to the economy in 2004. Not as good. And I was doing really well in real estate. I got my broker's license. I actually got interested in development right away. So I bought a historic home and renovated it. I also had a broker that mentored me and taught me how to flip properties. So I did a couple of projects that way. And then the economy had, not a great day in 2005,
Right.
thanks to those liar loans, right? So I was, even though I'd gotten my broker's license around that time, I wasn't ready to pull the trigger. So as much as I love entrepreneurship and I love the risk factor of it, I'm also a little risk adverse. So I needed everything to be lined up kind of just right. And I went from one to three different firms until in 2013, things just kind of lined up right. I ran the numbers, and for anyone making that transition, again, if you're in commission only business, it's all about what are you bringing in and what's your overhead, right? So when I decided to work on my own, I said I knew what my overhead was. I was at that point paying for a desk. That was the system. In real estate, you can either have a split with your broker or you can pay for a monthly fee to have a desk. So I knew what my fee was there and what I was paying someone else, and I knew what I was bringing in. So when I decided to go on my own, I'm like, I just need to match this to my own space. And
Right.
I was dreaming about it for a while. I had some great business coaching that was finally like, enough already. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay, let's do
Love it.
it. Yeah, and at some point you just you got to be terrified and do it anyway, and that was my feeling on it.
Yeah. No, I love that, the intentionality around being okay in my fear, right? But
Right.
but not allowing the fear to control my actions. So I'm still going to take that step forward and go, okay, this is scary, but I'm going to do it.
Right. I mean, I feel like you have to be cautiously risky,
Yep.
right? So in the worst case, I mean, it's the same thing in anything you do. People, when they want to buy a home from me, they're scared that they're stuck in this home forever.
Right.
You're not. You can sell. So I know even if I try and go off on my own and I hated it or I bombed for whatever reason, okay, I knew I was a good realtor. I could go back and do something else. But it's almost that, build a bridge and get over it, right? So you just but you can't know until you do it. And then, like anybody knows, and I don't like change, I don't love it. But every time I do, when I look back and everyone says this, oh, I wish I did this 5 years ago. Right. So, and that was the same for me.
Awesome. So you take that leap of faith, you jump out, you're on your own. And at what point did you start bringing in some employees?
From the get go, I actually, this business is all about integrity and reputation. And I had friends in this business and friends in general. As soon as they heard that I was doing this, were like, I'm packing my bags. Me too. Don't forget me. So
Awesome.
a few came from with me right from the get go, and I was trying to be very respectful because the broker I worked for, I was not trying to be hurtful. I
Right.
always leave in an amicable place, but I also had something different to offer. So a few people came with me, and I have 15 agents now, and I can tell you happily, I have not recruited any of them. They have all organically come to me, either by reputation or just happenstance.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's gone. So now we've got a nice core little boutique firm.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is not something that you hear very often that, hey, I have not had to recruit anybody. They've come to me. That's fantastic.
Well, we talked a little bit about that risk. So, I mean, same thing. And one of my issues is I'm not good at recruiting. I mean, I'm a great salesperson, but they're like, "Hey, come work for me." Like, I've never been good at that, and so I never did. And somehow it just worked itself out anyway. But
Yeah.
that was not my model. I never intended to have 100 of these things or 100 agents and franchise out. It was not.
Right.
Always said I opened up my shop so that if I was the only person there, it would be successful in its own right. And everything around it is a bonus.
Oh, that's awesome. Love that. Love that attitude. I love your intentionality around um, saying, hey, this is the model that works for me, rather than saying, hey, I'm just going to jump on the train that everybody else is on and do the same thing. You're like, nope, this is what I want for me. And man, that just speaks volumes of the culture that you've obviously created within your company, where you just have people saying, hey, me, pick me. I want to come work for
Right.
you.
We are a family feel type of business, and I wanted that because I had been in brokerages before where little subsets of realtors, like we had little core groups and we always encouraged each other. And I've also been in brokerages where some guy would walk by and be like, "How many deals do you have going? I'm going to beat you." And I'm like, "Good." And they're like,
Are we on the
"Oh,
same
like
team?
yeah, like do it." Like I live with, it's, what is it, law of attraction. I like the abundance. There's enough for all of us. But I knew when I wanted to have this firm, and I've been selective about who I've let come along, because as soon as you have somebody in there, not that competition isn't healthy, but when it's negative competition or
Right.
toxic, it really drives everyone else to feel a bad way. And don't get me wrong, I sound very eloquent today, but I'll tell you, my business coach, if you talked with him, he'd laugh, because every time I talk to him different, I'm like, I want another firm. I want nobody. I want 6 more people. I want nobody. Like, so every, month was a different conversation, because I certainly have dreams about what would have been or what could have been. And then he always says, just be very, very clear on what you want. And it always kept coming back to, I want a place where people come in, it feels like family, it feels honest, and it is honest, but feels like you're walking in and you're getting good, true customer service, which is what I did not have my first go round.
Right. Oh, love that. And you just spoke to every single entrepreneur out there when you said, "Man, I didn't know what I wanted. One day I wanted this, and then the next day I wanted that." And then it's this unforeseen squirrel syndrome that as entrepreneurs we have sometimes, is we're like, "Ooh, I want to go try that. Oh, no. No, I like what I'm doing here. Oh, no. Actually, I want to go try that." Um, but
Totally. And I've been in that situation a million times. And it's very hard when you're in a business when there's so many people like you. So I have other brokers my age in this business. And you start to doubt yourself. You're like, why don't I have 100 agents, or why don't I have 100 firms? And you're like, well, would you like to be taking their calls at midnight? Oh, wait, no, not so much. You have to reel it back in, like, do I really want to be on an airplane, like $1 million listing and traveling to my Miami office? No, no, not really. Not so much. No thanks.
right. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's crucial that at some point we take a step back and we go, okay, but what is it that we really want? And let's get real clear on that, and then let's go make it happen and execute on
Right.
that. So great insight from your business coach to help you and lead you in that direction, because it's so true. um, as much as we do want to chase after a lot of things, if we're sending all of our energy in multiple directions, we don't actually accomplish anything. But if we can get some clarity and alignment around what we actually want, then we can get that focused direction. We can go after and we can get it accomplished. So that's awesome.
Right. And if you have that vision, you're going to take the steps in that direction. If you're all over the place, which I have been, and I'm like, I took a step and, I could grab a software package, or let me grab this bucket of leads, or let me just pay here. And then it's just spaghetti on the wall. And you're looking at it, you're like, what am I doing? It just doesn't make any sense. So, there is some trial and error, but absolutely having that time, and I'd recommend for anyone out there, the coaching is so worth it, because that's the person that you can vent to, that's going to be like, remember when you said you didn't want to babysit 100 extra people, or you didn't want to
Right.
spend $1 million more in debt to get to whatever it is. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Okay. they're like, all right, let's go back to the beginning. All right, we're all set.
Yeah, no, sometimes it really is a benefit to just have somebody from the outside looking in, because sometimes when we're in the inside looking out, we're like, ooh. And then somebody looking in is going, no, stay the
Yeah,
course.
stay the course. I mean, I remember one time I have, and this is like a few years into my career, I was terrified about selling a house, $1 million house. I mean, it's so silly. The amount of work and the process of selling a $500,000 house, a 750, a million. There was something, talk about terror barrier, right? There's something about that $1 million mark that I was like, I'm not qualified. And like, it's the silliest thing. And at some point, you just have to do it, or get over yourself, or whatever the term is. And now it's like comical to me. And so now when I'm talking about something else, my coach will be like, remember when you were scared about selling a house that was $1 million? And I'm like, shut up. You're like, yeah, okay. But yeah, all right, you're right. All right, I'll stop now.
Oh, I love that. Love that. It's so awesome. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and your journey. It's just been an awesome one. It's fun to hear you describe it, and can see your passion in what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's go ahead, and we're going to switch gears just a little bit now. So Rachel, as it pertains to you continuing to be the leader that you want to be in your organization, in your business that you've created, and you're building and developing your team, what's something that you're dealing with right now, real time, that we can have a conversation about?
Well, I think, going to the team and having that conversation is an interesting one. So like I said, I have wonderful agents. I have 15 people, but I would say, and I'm sure every business owner struggles with motivation and being a good leader. When I was started in this business, everyone said to me, you need to be doing something every day, and I did. I mean, like I said, there wasn't free things even to do. I paid for Chamber of Commerce. I ran to this networking event. I joined a book club. I mean, whatever. Like, look at me, I'm a realtor. And now it's like, especially, and when we had this with COVID too, it's like, oh, well, I have nothing to do, or I can't do anything, so I'm gonna go, get a manicure, and maybe a client will show up from outer space and do, so
Right.
I have meetings with my team every 2 weeks, and I'm trying to, one, keep them together, to be cohesive, because I am struggling with the fact that nobody wants to come to the office for a full meeting anymore. So we do this over Zoom, just like this
Right.
podcast. Nobody wants to come see each other anymore. So that's one thing. And then keeping the motivation, to get people motivated, because I can only drive so much, and it's not, I'm only expecting of them what I expect of myself. I still sell, but it's a struggle, and how to get people out of their own way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're right on when you say that this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs deal with, because they do. It's hey, we got this team, we got this company, we're going. Now, how do we stay motivated so that we can keep working day in, day out? What is it that we need to do so that we can, keep existing together and keep surviving? So a couple of trains of thoughts as you were talking about that I had. So first and foremost, here at Elite, we talk about a vision. So your vision in our terms is your purpose, your values, and your mission and mission goals. So your purpose is why you do what you do on a daily basis. Why do you get out of bed in the morning and go to work? That's your purpose. Then your values, that's who you are and how you show up in every situation. And then your mission, that's your destination. That's this thing that you're going to go accomplish in the next 3, 4, or 5 years, and you're real clear on what that time frame is, and you set a date and you go after and you attack it. And then those mission goals, those are the metrics of success. That's how you determine, hey, we've arrived, we've made it to this destination. So what that does is a couple of things. Number one is it helps create that culture that you have. So it sounds like you've done a great job because you already have people raising their hands. Hey, I want to come work for you. It further sets in that culture because now you've got a whole company of people that show up and are the same type of people on a day-to-day basis, regardless of the situation. That's how they're going to act, and that's what those core values are. They believe in this why, and it's more than just hey, I'm going to show up to work and gather a paycheck. But now it's tied to emotion because now I'm like, hey, yeah, that's why I get out of bed in the morning. I believe in this purpose, this thing that we're going to go do together. I love that. That's awesome. And then the mission is what ties that all together because now you have a set destination. This is where we're going to go after as a team. We're going to go accomplish this really awesome thing that's directly in line with our purpose. So it fits perfectly into why we do what we do. But this is an actual thing we're going to go and we're going to accomplish it. So by establishing that, it gives you the opportunity to take your whole team and anytime that you're trying to motivate or encourage through hard times, through difficult transactions, whatever it may be, you can always point back to your vision and say, hey, remember why we do what we do? And remember this place we're going to go after, this destination we're going to arrive at? Let's keep going. We can get there. Yeah, this is a bump in the road, but we can make it there. And suddenly you start getting this discretionary effort out of your employees where they're saying, yeah, I want to go do that thing. We can do this. And now it's more of a um, emotionally tied connection of, yes, I want to go do this thing and we're going to get there, rather than hey, I'm trying to keep them motivated on a day in, day out. They're doing the same thing. Sometimes it gets a little monotonous. We're doing the same thing. But now it's like, no, that's okay. We can do this over and over again because we're working towards a common goal that we can all work together. So how we talked about, taking this energy that we have, now with this mission, we can collectively create that clarity and alignment as a team. So all of our efforts are generating towards the same thing. And then that's a next level filter for decision making because now all the decisions we make within the company are, hey, does this or does this not serve our purpose? And if it does, is it going to help us towards reaching our mission? Because if it does, boom, we're going gas all the way down to the floor, full bore. We're going to go after, we're going to get this thing done because it's in line with our purpose and it's going to help us reach our destination. Then the next step down from that is, okay, now as an individual who works on this team, how do I know what it looks like to win on a day-to-day basis? And how do I know what I'm doing today is affecting our team's ability to reach our mission? So then we like to establish what we call big threes. A lot of people refer to them as KPIs, very similar, but what we say is, what are the three most critical things needed to be successful in that role? And it's deciding that big three by the role. So it's taking your org chart, and if you haven't created one yet, I'd highly recommend it. You create an org chart, and you don't put anybody's names in them. You just put the roles. So you're going through and you're establishing what it is that everybody does. Okay, so I have this person who's an agent, this person, whatever it looks like. And then you go through and you say, okay, what are the three most critical things needed for the success of this role? And you do three things in that is you're determining, okay, I need to make sure that it's very descriptive. I write out exactly what it is so that it's clear and precise what that big three is. The next step is I'm going to make sure, is it measurable? Okay, can I measure the success of this thing? Understanding that big three is going to either be results based or action based, right? Then the third one is, okay, now how is that tied directly into our mission? How is this thing that I'm going to go after and do on a daily basis that I now is clearly defined, it's measurable? How is that directly related to us as a whole reaching that destination. And by doing that, you've now taken your whole team and you've, without meaning to, it's just a side effect of, you've created this sense of belonging and this sense of motivation for everybody of, hey, I now know what it looks like to win on a day-to-day basis, and we're going to go after and get this thing done. And I know what I'm doing, how it impacts our whole company's ability to do that. And so then now you've created this process where everybody's engaged, everybody's excited. And man, when you reach your destination, you're going to celebrate huge. And then what are you going to do? The very next day, you're going to sit down and you're going to choose another destination.
Do it all again.
Yep. You start all over again.
Start all over.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So as you do that, that's one way that you can really help within your culture. You know, you've already established this great culture. I would be willing to bet that everybody in your company is probably already a core values fit. You just would have to take the time to, set those down and establish those. But I'll bet you it's already that way because you're already functioning great. And then it's just saying, hey, we're going to go after and we're going to get this thing done. Well, what is that thing? Well, we need to make sure that it's tied to our purpose and it's something that gets us all excited,
Yeah.
right? And as soon as you do that, man, you would not believe the amount of people that are willing to say, you know what? You've got something coming up. Don't worry. I'll cover that for you. Oh, man, I'm not feeling so hot today. So I'm still going to work. Even though I could just take the day off. No, I'm still going to work because I want to make sure that we're reaching our destination. But I'm going to do it in a different way. And the creativity that's created, and everybody's now thinking through, and they're saying, "Oh, how can we do this more effectively? How can we do this more efficiently? I want to make sure that we're going to reach this destination." Man, it really is a recipe for success in your business to just do that. And then as the leader, you have 3 jobs: set the vision, build your team, and then deliver results. Now, deliver results doesn't mean that you have to put in the work, but that you're making sure that you're providing everybody in your team the resources, the tools, the knowledge necessary to be successful. And then you're holding them accountable. And that's how you're delivering results. And all of 3 of those tasks, right in the center of those, is this idea or concept of care. I got to care in what it is that we're going after and doing. I got to care in the purpose. And I got to care in the individual. I got to care about everybody that we're serving. I got to care about the customer. I got to care about the employee. I got to care about our vendors. The list just goes on and on and on. And if I have that care in there, then as a leader, that's how I'm winning, because I'm setting the vision, ensuring everybody knows what our purpose is. We're all core values met. We're talking about it all the time. And man, this destination, we're going to go after and reach our mission. Building that team, which you've already built a fantastic team. So now what you're doing is you're building them up and you're helping them elevate and you're helping them increase their knowledge and their skill set and their abilities. And then you're helping them by delivering results, and you're ensuring that and holding them accountable and ensuring things are getting done. And then that's how you're going to see the success that you're wishing for. So that was a lot. Sorry. I don't mean to.
It's all good stuff.
Sometimes I tend to do the fire hose approach where I just turn it on,
Okay.
and I don't mean to.
It's totally cool. It's good stuff.
So what are your thoughts?
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think the camaraderie and I think the culture is so important, and I definitely feed on that. A little different in my business versus other companies
Yeah,
is
sure.
is all the agents are 1099s. So you have all these little businesses within the bigger business. So absolutely, everything you're saying makes sense, and I really try to lead the group to see the bigger vision, and being proud to work at our boutique, right?
Yeah.
To work at our firm. I think the struggle sometimes happens is sometimes meeting people where they are, right? So their individual goals for themselves, it's sometimes hard when you don't see somebody go to their fullest potential, right? And that's because of their own terror barriers and their things they're scared of or their confidence. So I'm always working with them individually to try to motivate that piece to get them to that next level. And that's where it gets a little tricky, because if if they don't want to work, they don't have to work, but
Right.
it hurts them. And, it's hard for me to watch if they're not succeeding. Right. So, I almost wonder sometimes it all sounds good. It's just sometimes with somebody that they are also self-employed, they are not necessarily self ambitious,
Right.
and 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 it just gets a little tricky.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and and I fully agree with the idea of, hey, you need to right size it for you and your business. So anything that's out there in the universe, there's lots of good things floating around, but anything that we hear, we got to take that in. We got to right size it to us and what makes sense for us. In your situation, I would offer maybe the possible suggestion of maybe dream with them a little bit.
Yeah,
Take a few minutes with them and say, hey, what are your hopes and dreams? Because I'm looking at you and I'm seeing, man, look at all this massive potential. Where do you see yourself? And maybe helping them develop that ability or that skill of, hey, let's dream a little bit. Where could we be in the next 3, 4, 5 years from now? How could we see an increase in what we're doing? Or maybe for them, it's not that I want to see an increase. Maybe it's something totally separate, and that's okay. I feel too frequently anymore people forget to dream and to
yeah,
just think about, hey, what are the possibilities? And maybe I should go after one of them and see
I
what
like
happens.
that.
Right.
Yeah, and so what I do is I do every, kind of, I guess, like everybody does, the beginning of the year goals, and
Mhm.
I'm always very clear that I want their our meeting, and that I do in person, to include professional and personal, right? Because maybe it's work life balance, and maybe they only want to produce so much because to get that work life balance.
Yeah.
And if I can help support them on their personal goals, they're going to be happier to do their business goals. But I think I probably lack it then the follow up, right? So that's great. Like anything else, it's like your New Year's resolution. It's great if you put it down in January, but who's checking in June? Like, hey,
Yeah.
what, you gained 5 pounds? What happened? So, I think that, if I'm sure other entrepreneurs go through this too. It's like finding the right amount of follow up that one, not to nag, but to kind of say, hey, all right, you had some dreams. Where are we at? Are they still the same?
Yeah. So one thing that we teach here is the concept of weekly one-on-ones, where we say, hey, once a week, meet with all of your people for 30 minutes. And during that 30-minute time frame, do exactly what you suggested. The first 15 minutes is all about their personal life. How are things going? Hey, last time we talked, Billy had a baseball game. How did that go? Right? Keeping that on the forefront, understanding that, hey, they have a life outside of work, right? Let's
Right.
help encourage and let them know, that does multiple things. One thing, it makes them feel seen and heard. But another thing is it makes them say, well, wait a second, Rachel actually cares about me. That's awesome. Right. And then that second half, the last 15 minutes, that's all about accountability. And that's holding them to those big threes that you've established and saying, hey, this is your opportunity to return and report to me. How are things going? Is this working? Great. And then the idea is that once a quarter on that one-on-one, now you say, okay, now let's revisit those big threes. Are those still relevant? Do we need to adjust them, shift them, tweak them, whatever, depending on how things are going? Right. So we're readdressing those on a quarterly basis, and then on a weekly basis, we're just having a quick conversation. How's your personal life going? Just want to check in, make sure you're still doing good. Tell me about your dreams. Let it dream with them a little bit. Say, hey, where do you see yourself in the next couple of years in your personal life? Where do you see yourself in the next couple of years in your professional life?
Right.
Right. Dream with them a little bit, and then the accountability piece, and that keeps it focused. Now, with 15 people, I would never in a million years suggest to you that you should do it with all 15 of them.
I was
That is
gonna say,
way too many.
are you cloning me?
Well,
No, but it's true. I have like my newest agents I meet with weekly, and then my veterans it's more monthly. That really know, and then I've got a couple that they couldn't be bothered and said that they've got it. They're they come and we talk every week at some point about something, but not a formal meeting. So I
Yeah.
find that works well, because you're right. Because every week I would, I'd lose 2 days of every week, just
Yeah.
doing
Too much.
check-ins.
Too much.
Yeah.
We recommend that you never do more than about 5 or 6 max. 5 is like the gravy train. 6 if you have to, because you do more than that, and then you're losing too much production. You're getting too thick in the weeds, and right.
I
You're
just
not.
become the therapist at some point, if it's
Yes.
too many, then they're like, hey, I had to get, my dog. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, I want to hear about your personal life, but,
Yeah. Let's keep it short and concise.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have
Exactly.
15 minutes. You tell me anything you want. These 15
That's
minutes are
right.
yours. Go for
Take
it.
their hourglass, turn it over, and just be like, all right, you're out of time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, love it. Awesome. Well, Rachel, thank you again so much for taking the time to be on our podcast today. You've shared some awesome stories, some great insight. I hope everybody who's listening in paid attention to some of the key points that you brought out. The thought about, hey, make sure that you're not allowing fear to run you, but you're willing to say, hey, you know what? Yes, this is scary, but I'm going to try it anyway. The idea or concept of, hey, this was really hard for me. There's got to be a better way to do this. And if it was hard for me, it's got to be hard for other people. So I'm going to go after that. I'm going to fill a need. Most entrepreneurs, that's how they get started, right? They're looking to fill a need. But it's always good to bring that back up that, hey, if you have this idea or concept, man, try it out. Don't let fear hold you back. Rachel, if somebody who's listening in wanted to get a hold of you or Hillman Homes, they like what you're doing, they want to get more involved, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and your company?
Um, any way you want. I mean, honestly, if you Google Rachel Foy, you'll find me every which way. But my personal website is hillmanfoy.com, HILLMAN, hillmanfoy.com. Welcome to email me, Rachel@hillmanfoy.com. And I could give the cell, but all of our handles for social media are under Hillman Homes MA. That's another entrepreneurial thing. HillmanHomes.com, they wanted like $5,000 for that domain. So I'm Hillman Homes MA for Massachusetts, and that'll get you to all the contact stuff for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. And those of you who are listening in, if you heard something today that you're like, yes, that's what I need to do, take action on it. Because it's not until we take action that we start to see results. And then if you heard something and you're like, you know what, I know somebody that could really use this, please share this podcast with them. Let's share as much value and spread it as far as we can. Well, again, Rachel, we appreciate you being on the show, and we appreciate all of you out there who are listening in. Until next time, this has been another episode of the 7 Figure Journey podcast. Take care.
Thank you.